Have you been taking your metformin every morning with breakfast for the last 8 years, thinking you're doing everything right? Then why do your legs feel like concrete by dinner time? Why can't you remember your grandson's name when he calls? Why does your tongue feel thick and strange when you talk? Your doctor sees your blood sugar at 112 and calls you controlled. But there's something happening inside the energy factories of every cell in your body right now that your doctor has never checked for. And by the time you feel it, the damage has already been building for years. I need you to stop what you're doing and pay attention, because what I'm about to show you explains why seniors on metformin for more than 5 years are ending up in emergency rooms with a condition that looks like dementia, feels like a stroke, but isn't either. The doctors run the CT scan and find nothing. They run the blood panel, and everything looks normal except for one number that most doctors never check. And that one number reveals that metformin has been slowly starving your brain of the fuel it needs to function, while your blood sugar charts looked perfect the entire time. Dr. Andre walked me through a case last month that changed the way I look at every senior taking this medication. A woman, 73 years old, had been on metformin for 9 years. Perfect patient, never missed a dose, blood sugar beautifully controlled. Then one Thursday afternoon, her daughter found her standing in the kitchen staring at the refrigerator, unable to remember why she was there or what she was looking for. The daughter called 911. At the hospital, they tested for stroke. Nothing. They scanned for dementia. Nothing unusual for her age. They checked her blood sugar. It was 98. Perfect. They sent her home and told her daughter it was probably just aging. 2 weeks later, it happened again. This time she couldn't remember her daughter's name. Back to the hospital, more scans, more tests. Everything normal except one vitamin that had dropped so low it was shutting down her brain cell by cell, while her diabetes medication kept her blood sugar in the perfect range. Comment below and tell me where you're watching this from, because what I'm about to explain is happening to seniors in every country where metformin is prescribed. And the number of people who know this is happening is shockingly small compared to the millions taking this pill every single day. The vitamin is B12, and metformin blocks your body from absorbing it in a way that doesn't show up on your regular blood tests until the damage is already done. Here's what makes this so dangerous. Your doctor checks your blood sugar every 3 months and celebrates the number going down. But nobody checks your B12 until you show up confused, unable to walk straight, or speaking in sentences that don't make sense. By that point, the nerve damage has already started. The brain fog is already installed. The numbness in your feet is already permanent. And the fix that could have prevented all of this costs $3 a month and takes 5 seconds to swallow. Let me explain how metformin works in your body so you understand why this happens to nearly everyone who takes it long enough. When you swallow metformin, it travels to your intestines where your body absorbs vitamin B12 from food. B12 needs a helper protein called intrinsic factor to get absorbed through the intestinal wall. Metformin interferes with this process. It doesn't stop it completely at first, but it slows it down enough that over months and years, your B12 levels quietly drop while you keep taking the pill that's helping your blood sugar and hurting your brain at the same time. Your body stores B12 in your liver. When you first start metformin, you have enough stored B12 to last you 2 to 4 years, depending on how much you had before the medication started. During those first few years, everything feels fine. Your blood sugar is controlled, you feel good, your doctor is happy, the chart looks perfect. But underneath the surface, your B12 reserves are draining month by month, dose by dose, meal by meal. The pill you're taking to prevent diabetes complications is creating a different complication that nobody warned you about because it takes years to show up, and when it does, it doesn't look like a vitamin deficiency. It looks like dementia. It looks like nerve damage. It looks like depression. It looks like aging. By year 5 on metformin, up to 30% of seniors have B12 levels low enough to cause symptoms. By year 10, that number climbs to 40%. But here's the part that makes this a system failure, and not just a side effect. The symptoms of low B12 look exactly like the complications of diabetes that metformin was prescribed to prevent. Your feet go numb. Your doctor says it's diabetic neuropathy. Your balance gets worse. Your doctor says it's aging. Your memory slips. Your doctor orders dementia testing. Nobody connects it to the pill because the pill is helping the diabetes. How could the pill that's controlling your blood sugar be causing the same symptoms as uncontrolled blood sugar? But it is. And the test that proves it takes 30 seconds and costs $12 at any lab in the country. Dr. Andre told me about a patient who had been on metformin for 11 years. This man was 76. His blood sugar was perfect. His A1C was 5.8. Model patient. Then he started falling. Not tripping, falling. His legs would give out underneath him for no reason. His daughter took him to a neurologist. The neurologist tested him for Parkinson's. Negative. Tested for multiple sclerosis. Negative. Ordered an MRI of his spine. Normal for his age. The neurologist told him it was probably just deconditioning and referred him to physical therapy. 3 months of physical therapy, no improvement. The falls got worse. Then one day his daughter was reading about metformin online and saw something about B12 deficiency causing balance problems. She asked his primary doctor to check his B12. The doctor said his annual blood panel had been normal, so B12 was probably fine too. She insisted. The doctor ordered it to reassure her. The B12 came back at 180. Normal range starts at 200. The doctor called it borderline and said it wasn't low enough to worry about. But here's what most doctors don't know. The normal range for B12 on a standard lab report is 200 to 900. Anything above 200 gets called normal. But the research shows that symptoms of B12 deficiency start appearing when levels drop below 400, especially in seniors. A level of 180 is not borderline. It's dangerously low. It means the nerve coating is already breaking down. The brain cells are already starving. The blood cells are already struggling to form correctly. And calling it borderline is like calling a gas tank with the warning light on borderline empty. Technically, there's still gas in the tank, but you're not making it to the next station. Dr. Andre started this man on B12 injections immediately, 1,000 micrograms once a week. Within 3 weeks, the falls stopped. Within 2 months, his balance was back. Within 4 months, he was walking a mile every morning without holding on to anything. His daughter cried in the office and asked why nobody had checked this 4 years ago when the falling started. Dr. Andre didn't have an answer for her. The system doesn't check B12 routinely in diabetics on metformin, even though the research has been clear for over 20 years that metformin depletes it. The guidelines recommend checking it, but the guidelines are not built into the electronic medical record. The doctor has to remember to order it separately. And in a 7-minute appointment, managing diabetes, high blood pressure, cholesterol, and arthritis, B12 doesn't make the list unless the patient or the family asks for it specifically. Now let me show you what low B12 does to your body over time, because this explains every single symptom that seniors on long-term metformin blame on aging. B12 is required for your body to build the protective coating around every nerve in your body. That coating is called myelin, and it works like the insulation around an electrical wire. Without it, the nerve signals misfire, slow down, or stop completely. When B12 drops, the myelin breaks down. The nerves in your feet start misfiring first because they're the longest nerves in your body and they need the most insulation. You feel tingling, then numbness, then burning. Your doctor tests your blood sugar and sees it's controlled, so the numbness gets blamed on old diabetic damage, even though your sugar has been perfect for years. The nerves in your legs break down next. Your balance gets shaky. You hold onto the counter when you walk through the kitchen. You avoid stairs. You stop going to the grocery store alone because you're afraid of falling. Your doctor says it's deconditioning and sends you to physical therapy. Nobody checks the B12. The insulation keeps breaking down. Now the nerves that control your bladder start misfiring. You have accidents you've never had before. You start wearing protection. You stop leaving the house because you're embarrassed. Your doctor prescribes a bladder medication that makes your mouth dry and your memory worse. Still, nobody checks the B12. Then the brain fog starts. You walk into a room and forget why you went there. You can't find words you've used your entire life. You call your grandson by your son's name. You put the milk in the pantry and the cereal in the refrigerator. Your family starts looking at memory care facilities. Your doctor orders cognitive testing. The results show mild impairment. The doctor says it's early dementia, and there's no treatment, just monitoring. Nobody checks the B12, even though low B12 causes a type of reversible cognitive impairment that looks identical to dementia on every test except one. And that one test is the B12 level itself. Every single one of these symptoms is preventable. Every one of them is treatable if caught early. And every one of them is happening right now to seniors who trust their doctor to check the things that matter. The doctor checks the blood sugar. The doctor celebrates the A1C. The chart says controlled. Meanwhile, the brain is starving, the nerves are dying, and the person taking the pill every morning thinks they're doing everything right. Now here's the part that makes this even more tragic. The standard B12 blood test misses up to 30% of people who are actually deficient. You can have a B12 level of 250 on the blood test, which looks normal, and still have severe B12 deficiency affecting your brain and nerves. How is that possible? Because the standard test measures total B12 in your blood, but it doesn't measure how much of that B12 is actually active and usable by your cells. There's a better test called methylmalonic acid, or MMA, that catches the deficiency the regular B12 test misses. When your cells can't use B12 properly, MMA builds up in your blood. A high MMA level means your cells are starving for B12, even if the B12 blood test looks normal. Dr. Andre orders both tests now on every patient who's been on metformin longer than 3 years. Half the time, the B12 looks fine and the MMA is elevated. Those patients are functionally B12 deficient, and they would have been missed if he had only checked the standard test. If you've been on metformin for more than 3 years, you need 2 tests, B12 and MMA. If either one is abnormal, you need supplementation. Not the tiny dose in a multivitamin. Real supplementation. The kind that reverses the damage before it becomes permanent. Here's the protocol Dr. Andre uses. If your B12 is below 400 or your MMA is elevated, start with B12 injections. 1,000 micrograms once a week for 8 weeks. Then recheck the levels. If they've come up and the symptoms have improved, switch to oral B12. But not the regular kind. You need methylcobalamin, the active form your cells can use immediately. 1,000 to 2,000 micrograms every day. Some people absorb it fine in pill form. Some people need sublingual tablets that dissolve under the tongue. And some people need to stay on injections long-term because metformin has damaged the absorption so badly that pills will never work. The only way to know which one you need is to treat, recheck, and see if the levels hold. Within 3 weeks of starting B12 replacement, the brain fog starts lifting. Within 6 weeks, the balance improves. Within 3 months, the numbness starts reversing if the nerve damage isn't too old. If you've had numbness for more than 5 years, some of it may be permanent. But even permanent nerve damage stops getting worse once the B12 is replaced. The damage that's already done stays, but new damage stops happening. That's why catching this early matters more than anything else. Now, let me tell you what happens if this goes unchecked. Severe B12 deficiency doesn't just cause tingling and brain fog. It causes a type of anemia where your red blood cells grow too large to function properly. Your body can't carry oxygen efficiently. You feel exhausted all the time. You're short of breath walking to the mailbox. Your doctor sees the anemia on your blood work and starts testing for bleeding, cancer, or bone marrow failure. The anemia is called macrocytic, which means large cells, and it's one of the classic signs of B12 deficiency. But if nobody connects the anemia to the metformin, you end up with invasive testing looking for diseases you don't have, while the real cause sits in your pill organizer every morning. There's one more thing metformin does that almost no senior knows about, and it explains why some people feel terrible on this medication from day one, while others feel fine for years. Metformin works by blocking sugar production in your liver and making your muscles more sensitive to insulin. But it also blocks an enzyme in your cells called complex 1 in the mitochondria. Your mitochondria are the energy factories in every cell. Complex 1 is part of the assembly line that turns food into energy. When metformin blocks complex 1, your cells produce less energy. For some people, their cells compensate and they never feel it. For others, the energy drop is immediate and crushing. They feel exhausted, weak, and mentally slow from the first week on the medication. Their doctor tells them to push through it, that the fatigue will improve once their blood sugar stabilizes. It doesn't improve. It gets worse because every day on metformin is another day of their cells struggling to make energy. If you started metformin and felt exhausted within the first month, and that exhaustion never fully went away, you're likely someone whose mitochondria can't compensate for the blockade. That doesn't mean metformin is wrong for everyone. It means it might be wrong for you. And there are other medications that control blood sugar just as well without blocking your cellular energy production. Here's what you do at your next appointment. Ask your doctor for 3 things. First, a B12 level and an MMA level. Say this exactly. Doctor, I've been on metformin for several years, and I've read that it depletes B12 in up to 40% of long-term users. I'd like to check my B12 and my MMA to make sure I'm not deficient. If the doctor says your regular blood work was normal, so B12 is probably fine, say this. The standard panel doesn't include B12, and the research shows symptoms start when B12 drops below 400, even though the lab calls anything above 200 normal. I'd like both tests, so we catch it early if it's dropping. Second, if your B12 is below 400 or your MMA is elevated, ask for B12 injections to start. If your doctor offers a pill instead, ask for injections first to get your levels up quickly, then switch to oral once the deficiency is corrected. Third, ask about checking your homocysteine level. Homocysteine is another marker that rises when B12 is low, and it also tracks your risk for heart disease and stroke. If it's elevated, B12 replacement brings it down and protects your heart at the same time it's protecting your brain. If you've been on metformin for 5 years or more, and you have numbness, balance problems, memory issues, or crushing fatigue, do not let your doctor tell you it's just diabetes or just aging until the B12 and MMA have been checked. Those symptoms are reversible if the cause is B12 deficiency. They're not reversible if the cause gets missed for another 3 years while the nerve damage becomes permanent. Every month you wait is another month of myelin breakdown that might not grow back. Subscribe to this channel because the next video covers the one supplement combination that rebuilds myelin faster than B12 alone, and why adding it to your protocol could be the difference between partial recovery and full recovery. Write down these 3 tests: B12, MMA, homocysteine. Bring this video to your appointment if you need to. Your doctor works for you. You're allowed to ask for tests that protect your brain. If your doctor refuses, find one who won't.